Let me ask you something. If you were planning a pregnancy, what steps would you follow? Most couples tell me the same things. We'll start folic acid, we'll eat healthy, maybe we'll exercise a little more. Yes, all of that is absolutely correct. But what if I told you that some of the biggest influences on fertility may actually be hiding quietly in your kitchen, in your cosmetics, in the plastic containers that you use every single day, and sometimes even in the air around you? These are chemicals that can interfere with our hormones, and they are called endocrine disruptors. Now, before you get worried, let me reassure you. This is not about becoming fearful of the modern world. It's simply about understanding what these chemicals are, why they matter for fertility and pregnancy, and what very simple things you can do in your day-to-day life to reduce their impact. I remember a very young couple coming to me in the clinic once. They told me, "Doctor, we're planning to start trying for a baby next month. Is there anything we should do before that?" It is a very common question. Most people think pregnancy preparations begin after the pregnancy test is positive. But the truth is that pregnancy preparation begins months before conception actually happens. The egg that will ovulate next month has been developing inside the ovary for several months, and the sperm takes roughly about 70 to 80 days to develop. The health of both partners in the months before conception actually plays a very important role in fertility. And that is exactly where endocrine disruptors come into the picture. So what exactly are these endocrine disruptors? To understand that, let's first understand how hormones work in the body. Hormones are chemical messengers, and they control many important functions such as puberty, menstrual cycles, ovulation, sperm production, metabolism, pregnancy, and even mood. A very simple way to understand hormones is to imagine a lock and a key. The hormone is the key. The receptor in the body is the lock. When the right hormone reaches the receptor, the lock will open and the body performs a specific function. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, on the other hand, interfere with this very system. Sometimes they mimic hormones, which means they act like false keys that open that lock. Sometimes they block the receptors so that the real hormones cannot work properly. And sometimes they change how hormones are produced or broken down in the body. In fact, the World Health Organization defines endocrine disruptors as substances from outside the body that interfere with the hormonal system and can lead to harmful health effects. Now, why does this matter when someone is trying for a pregnancy? Because hormones control almost every stage of reproduction. They guide the development of eggs in the ovaries, they regulate the sperm production in men, and they guide early embryo development. Even after pregnancy begins, the developing baby depends on very precise hormonal signals for the organ development. During the first trimester, the brain, heart, limbs, reproductive organs are all forming. Some chemicals in the environment can even cross the placenta, which means that they can reach the developing baby. This is why scientists are now talking about something called sensitive window of exposure, especially in the months before conception and the early stages of pregnancy. Now you may be wondering, is there an actual research showing this effect? Yes, there is. One of the most important studies in this field is called the Earth Study, which stands for Environment and Reproductive Health. In this study, researchers followed nearly 800 women and about 500 men who were undergoing fertility treatment. They measured levels of environmental chemicals in their blood and urine and then studied how these exposures affected their fertility outcomes. And what they found was very interesting. Higher exposures to certain plastic-related chemicals called phthalates was associated with fewer eggs during IVF, lower chances of pregnancy, higher risk of miscarriage, and lower live birth rates. In men, on the other hand, higher exposures to some of these chemicals were associated with poorer sperm parameters and lower chances of a natural conception. Now that's the bad part, but the study also had some very encouraging findings. Women who had a higher level of folate and those who consumed soy foods appeared to have better outcomes despite similar environmental exposures. So the learning from that is nutrition and healthy lifestyle may help the body cope with some of these environmental influences which are negative. To make this topic easier to understand, I often explain endocrine disruptors using something I called as the 7 Ps, 7 major categories from where these chemicals commonly come from. The first is plastics. Chemicals like BPA and phthalates are commonly found in plastic containers, food packaging, and water bottles. The second is pesticides, which are used in agriculture and may remain as residues on fruits and vegetables. The third P is personal care products. Perfumes, cosmetics, lotions, and deodorants that you use every single day. The fourth P is preservatives and flame retardants, which are used in furniture, mattresses, and electronic equipment, again something which is found in our house every single day. The fifth P is poisonous trace metals, such as lead, mercury, and cadmium. The sixth is PFAS, often called forever chemicals, used in the non-stick cookware and stain-resistant materials being used in your kitchen. And the seventh is pollutants, especially air pollution from traffic and industrial sources. Researchers have linked exposure to some of these chemicals with several health issues. These include early puberty, endometriosis, insulin resistance, PCOS, reduced ovarian response, poorer sperm quality, fertility problems, and even certain pregnancy complications. There is also growing interest in how these exposures may influence hormonal symptoms later on in life, including the years leading up to menopause. Now at this point, someone usually asks me a very practical question. Doctor, are you saying that I should throw everything out of my house? And the answer is no. The goal is not perfection. The goal is simply awareness and better choices. There are very simple small steps we can take in our everyday life that can significantly reduce the exposure. For example, in the kitchen, try not to heat food in the plastic containers. Instead, use glass or stainless steel containers. Reduce the packaged and ultra-processed foods whenever it is possible. Wash fruits and vegetables very thoroughly before you eat them. With cookware, try to reduce the use of non-stick pans and instead use stainless steel, cast iron, or ceramic cookware. With cosmetics, use fewer products and avoid heavily fragranced perfumes and sprays whenever possible. At home, keep the house well ventilated and clean household dust very regularly. When exercising outdoors, try to avoid heavy traffic pollution whenever it is possible. None of these changes are going to happen overnight. Even small improvements can make a difference over time. So the take-home message is very simple. Endocrine disruptors are part of modern day life, and completely avoiding them is not going to be realistic. But by making small, thoughtful choices in our day-to-day routines, we can reduce the unnecessary exposure and create a healthier environment for fertility, pregnancy, and the long-term health of the next generation. And if you found this information useful, share it with someone who may be planning a pregnancy. Because sometimes the most important steps towards a healthy pregnancy begin long before conception actually happens.